Hi folks, welcome back to the Grow Room on this first official day of spring. I forgot to introduce my friend Gail Joy, who's sort of the inspiration for this whole project and the brains behind it all. Can you do a little shot of yourself, Gail?
Oh, this is me.
So we're going to start out with just a recap of last week. So February 15th, we seeded the lettuce, spinach, onions, leeks, parsley, and celery. And they were ready to prick out into the 4-inch pots on February the 25th. Now we just pricked out the lettuce and the spinach because they were going out into the cold frames, and the parsley and the celery, they're still in here yet. We didn't prick out the onions and the leeks, we just left them in flats. Usually I just do that just because it's a lot of work to prick out every little onion. This year, because I have a new greenhouse, I'm going to try and prick out the leeks and put them in 4-inch pots so I get bigger leeks. So that's the story there, that the lettuce, spinach, parsley, and celery get pricked out into 4-inch pots, onions will stay in the flats, and leeks hopefully will get pricked out into 4-inch pots. Then March 11th, we started the tomatoes and the brassicas. And the brassicas are the broccoli, cauliflower, cabbages, Brussels sprouts. And by March 20th, they're a little bit small, but I decided to prick them out anyway because I had a day off today. And you know how it is when you have your own business, you have very little time off at times, especially in springtime for a gardener. So they're a little bit small, but I decided to prick them out anyway today. And so I'll show you those as we move along. We're going to look at the plants now. So this is the celery, and you can see it's progressing really well. And that's going to go out into the cold frame probably in a week or two. And this is the parsley. It's a little bit hardier, so that'll just go out into some garden beds or some garden pots. And these I started early because parsley is slow to get going, and so I like to start them early so we haven't, you can pick your parsley early in the season. You don't have to wait a long time. And the celery, it's nice to get it going because it again takes a little while too to get producing. Now the peppers are going to go out either to the cold frame or they all go out into the greenhouse. Now I got a new greenhouse this year, so I'm not quite knowledgeable on how to keep it heated in the evenings. Before I had a small plastic one, and this little heater on low kept it just fine. But now I have a bigger greenhouse, so I did a little bit of experimenting with it first before I put my peppers out there, because at this point I don't want to lose the peppers. They're just too valuable. These are the tomatoes and the brassicas that I've pricked out already. I'm just going to move this flat onto the floor and move the tomatoes there. So now I have 4 different varieties of tomatoes, and so what I did, instead of having to put tags for each, I put one variety in green pots, one variety in black pots, another variety over here. This and this are the same, orange pots, and then crinkle pots. So I have Roma tomatoes, and I just have a little description of those. I get my seeds from William Dams, just because I've ordered them from years. And the tomato varieties I chose, there's the Plum Regal. So it says fresh market Roma tomato with late blight resistance. So disease resistance is very important, especially late blight is kind of hard on your tomatoes. So I chose varieties that have that resistance. So this morning I transplanted some of the brassicas. I got the Brussels sprouts done, most of the cauliflowers, and the broccolis. And broccoli I like to grow lots of because they're great. You can eat them fresh, you can freeze them. They're really good that way. They're a good preserving crop. And cauliflower is really nice too, because nowadays cauliflower is really quite popular. You can have cauliflower rice, you can have cauliflower steaks, you can do mock chicken wings. So that it's a very popular crop right now. So I like to have lots of those too as well. And then the Brussels sprouts are nice for late fall and winter eating. A little pricking out demonstration. I'm only going to do 2 because there's no point in being too repetitive. So I've got all the cauliflower picked out, 16 pricked out, and we're going to do 2 more just to finish the flat. So you can see when sometimes I double up, but the seeds are fairly big. So when I plant them, I just make little holes in the tray and try to drop 1 seed in each and then cover them over and then put the cover on top and let them grow. So you can see how it filled out quite nicely. So now I'm just going to take probably an individual one here, and we're just going to lift it carefully. And then I got some soil in the pot, and then we'll dump the little guy right in there. And then So I just kind of hold it in the middle there and then put a bit of soil around. Now he's standing up more or less. More soil there. So I try to get them in the middle. And if they're got a little bit long, I didn't put the lights down really low right away, so they got a little bit long. So you can bury them a little bit deeper just so they're not so floppy. And I use a dry mix because it's easier just to put them around the plant. It's not so cumbersome. And usually at this point I just water them in just with plain water, but I made up some fish just so I didn't have to, or some seaweed, just so I don't have to do that later on. So we'll water them in with a little bit of seaweed and then we'll do it again at the end. So usually I just water them in with water and then at the end water the whole flat with some seaweed. So that packed it down a little bit, so I'll just put a little bit more on. There, and that's ready to go. Oh, and by the way, this soil is, I put in 3 scoops of the Sunshine No. 4, and then I put in 3 half scoops of the manure and a little bit of the Gaia Green fertilizer. So it's actually 1 to 2, 2 parts Sunshine No. 4 and 1 part manure.
We had a question on the YouTube channel, Ray, about Sunshine No. 4 and where to get it.
Yes, here in the cusp we get it at Home Building Center. In Silverton, New Denver, you can get it at the, used to be Silverton Building Supplies, but now I think it's Timber Mart. They would carry it there. I'm in Castle, I'm sure you can go to the Home Hardware there, I'm sure you could get it there. So it's just usually in a hardware place or a nursery.
And there was also a question about what is Sunshine Mix number 4? What is actually in it?
Mostly it's just sphagnum peat moss and then a little bit of dolomite. The sphagnum peat moss is quite acidic and the dolomite is alkaline, so it kind of helps balance out a little bit. And then it's got perlite in there, and it's also got a wetting agent. The wetting agent just helps it, if it gets really dried out and you put water on rather than it just being shed, it just sucks it into the mix. So that's the finishing of the flat of the cauliflowers then. So just so people know, the brassicas are going to hopefully go out into the garden the end of April. A little bit depends, we'll have to watch the weather. Last year was great. I put them out, it wasn't cold, they did beautifully, they grew well. 2 years ago I put them out and then we got really hard frost. I had to cover them with a tarp. And so the tarp was hard on them, the frost was hard on them, so my crop that year was a little bit stunted. This year I'm saving juice bottles, cut the bottom out of it, and I thought if it seems like it's cold, I'm going to try to put these little juice bottles over top of the plants just for a little bit of added protection from the frost. So hi folks, so we're out in the cold frame, so we're just going to check on how things did over the week. So you can see here, some of the lettuce got a little bit burned because it went from no sunlight to intense sunlight. But the new leaves are looking great, so they're coming nicely. And this variety is a little bit tougher leaf, not quite so fragile leaf, so it didn't get the damage that the other ones got. So this is a semi-head. I like that because you get a nice little crunchy head, but you don't have to wait for a big solid ball to develop. And again, I just grow a few just because they don't keep for very long and you want to eat them when they're nice and fresh and young. So I enjoy them, I give them away, and it's just wonderful to have a nice spring crop of lettuce. The spinach is much tougher. You can see it didn't get any damage at all. And I think I'm going to have to water soon. It's getting a little bit dry. And today was nice to be home because it just got warm just recently, just half an hour ago. And before that I had them all closed. But now the sun's out, so I opened them up wide. And I forgot to mention that in the evenings we've had heavy frost lately. So I have the glass on top, but I also put blankets on top of that to keep the heat in. So when I come home from work about 4:30 or 5, I put the frames back on, and then I let them get a little bit of sunshine if it's out, and then I put the covers on about 6 o'clock or so, 6:30, and then they're good for the night. Okay. So this is a real update for me. In Hills, I had 2 huge greenhouses, 30 by 60, but when I moved here, I didn't have any. And for a long time now, I had a little plastic greenhouse, just a tiny little thing. So this year, I decided that I would upgrade, and I got 2 greenhouses now, one for my crops and one for the landscape business for growing perennials. So I'm just learning how to keep it heated in the evenings. The other one was so small, I had this little heater in here, had it on low, and that was just fine for the evenings. So I'm just going to test this one a little bit first before I put my peppers out here. So what you like to do is, the grow room is great, but there's no sunshine down there. So to take the plants from the grow room and put them outside in the full sun is really hard on them. So you want to take them from the grow room and put them in the greenhouse so they get used to the sunshine, but they're still protected. And then from there, then they go out into the garden. So all the brassicas, once they're growing well and are a good size, they'll come to the greenhouse, stay in the greenhouse for a week or 2, and then from there go out into the garden. You can do it without a greenhouse. You can maybe bring them out for a couple of hours in the sunshine or maybe dappled sun. You can do it gradually. But if you have them in a grow room with just lights, they have to get used to the sunshine before you put them out full bore. So a tip I forgot to mention was that you want to have the lights quite low, just like a few inches above your plants. The nice thing about these lights is they adjust quite easily. There's just this knob here, and you just loosen it, and then you can go up and down. So like for the peppers here, we're quite high because they're big. But so it's important to have the lights quite low so your plants don't stretch. Thanks. Hi folks, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like. Thank you very much. Bye now.